Hi everyone, I'm back and raring to go. So like I said last video, I promised y'all that I'd give you kind of the background story of me, just kind of fill you in. Now, my life has been split up into three main parts. Part one was my birth and childhood. Birth and childhood, let's say. I was born, like I said, in February 1992. My dad and my mom had me. I was their little bundle of joy. And that kind of all was fine. I was kind of a healthy baby until I think I started to get like colds and stuff when I was like 2-3 years old. My mom can, I don't know, fill y'all in. I want to interview her and my brother at some point. Anyway, so I was born, everything was fine and jolly. Then my brother and my brothers were conceived. My mom was pregnant with twins. And at this point, I'm going to mention that my father was extremely abusive. And he will probably fight this till the day he dies because of the denial level that he is in. So he found out my mom was carrying twins, didn't like that very much, threw her, and we lost Charlie. So my mom lost the fetus shortly after, and then my brother Hemi was born. Anthony, his name's Anthony Hemi, we call him Hemi. He was born with a heart murmur, pneumonia. He was just a sick little baby. And the placenta came out, and it was obviously a twin birth. And there was a lot of awkwardness and sadness in the room when the afterbirth came out, and there wasn't a Charlie. But Carl's my father. I should probably describe to you my father. My father is a handsome, talented. And by talented, I mean we're a musical family, so he sings and guitar, and pretty much we can pick up any instrument and we can make a semi-decent, if not beautiful, sound come out of it. He is a what's the word? I don't know the word. He's everybody is wrapped around his middle finger. And I say middle for a reason, because it's not a place you want to belong. He has been described by and flagged by the cops as a mass manipulator, and that's exactly what he is. So he had everybody convinced that he was devastated, and poor him. Anyway, so I had at this point a little brother, and once he did get discharged from the hospital, then the abuse just kept going on. It got worse in Tillsonburg. We picked up and moved everyone because my dad was a trucker, and it was easier for him to travel to Cambridge, I think it was at the time, if we were living in Tillsonburg. So we moved to Tillsonburg in the middle of the night. Oh, there goes Mozart. So the abuse just kept getting worse. Now I mean physical, emotional, sexual only for my mother and myself, not so much my brother. It was pretty bad, and I'm not going to go into detail because it was horrific, and there was blood and guts, and the only way I can pretty much describe it is my childhood is pretty much the Saw movies. How I came out of my family, as in my mother and my brother, and Mozart, come here, buddy. Come here. How we got through all of this is the hand of God, for sure. Because there was days where we weren't coming out. We weren't going to get out of this, and it was scary, and there was a lot of confusion and pain and self-worth, and I felt like that big. I tried so hard to keep my mom and my brother alive. I took on this personality that I was not at fault. I never felt at fault. I knew Carl was the one doing this, and I knew it was not right. And I won't get emotional about all this because I've talked about it at camps, for programs. I've been doing speeches ever since I was little about my experience, and it was that bad, people. And I just got used to talking about it because you just do it over and over. Mozart, come here! Over and over again, and it just becomes like it's not your story anymore. It's a story you share with people and leave them to take from it what they want. So the abuse kept getting worse. At the age of 10, the cops finally took us away from our school. Me and my mom and my brother got packed into the back of a cop car, and we were taken to Simcoe, to a women's shelter in Simcoe, Ontario. It was absolutely terrifying. Now you walk into this room, and if you can think of it, it's an institution, and you walk in, and I remember that the walls being gray. And now this might have been my perception, because the walls could have been yellow, they could have been green, they could have been polka dotted. But me and my brother were barely dressed. We were tired, and we were bruised, and we looked like zombies. And my mom was even worse. There was nothing okay with this. And we were paraded into this room where there was a lot of women. No men were allowed, obviously, in a women's shelter. I remember a lot of motivational placards of like, women can do it, and women are strong, and vaginas. And it's that kind of environment, because you know what? We need to be pro-women in those places, because the women that come in and out of there have been destroyed. They've been lit a fire from underneath them, and they can't move and they can't run. And it seems like the faster they try to run, the hotter the flame gets, until they finally get into a place of solace. And that's what the women's shelter was for us, as terrifying as it was. And that was just the front office. And then they take us into the back. And the back was a living quarters. And it was 2 floors, and it's a big living room, and a kitchen, and a dining room, and like a kid's room. And it's filled with malnourished, tiny, scared children. Excuse me. Mothers who look exhausted, and just families that just needed help. But then there's also like this calm that's over everybody, because all these men who have attacked us, or who have made our lives as scary as they were, they can't get in. And there are women who work there that it's their job to make sure they don't get in. And I thank God every day for that, because he made this all happen. So we lived in the women's shelter for about, I don't know, like a month, 3-4 weeks, until we got into the second stage, which is Quetzal, which is pretty much, you get your own, because see, in the shelter you have like a room with like cots, and then everything else is shared. At Quetzal, it's an apartment building where, once again, men over the age of 18 aren't allowed into the building. There's security, but you get your own apartment, and you get your own kitchen, you get your own bathroom. Now, you're only supposed to be, because this is second stage, you're only supposed to be there for like 2 years, but we were there for like 5 years, 4 years and a bit, because our situation was so intense. There was points where my dad had several family members posted in different towns, searching. I'm not kidding, searching for us. And if he would have found us, there would have been no return. But they didn't find us, because I'm here, and we're awesome, and we're healthy, and we're, Anyway, so that was my childhood, and now we're going to get into my adolescence. 13 years old, it all starts. 13 years old, you're waiting, what's going on in your world at 13 for a young lady? I was in grade, who knows? My grade systems are just messed. I was in a grade, elementary school, and I'm waiting for my period. Because that's what you're waiting for, right? Your period. It's intense. And all my friends, I'm not kidding, all my friends had their period, and I didn't have my period yet. And I'm like, well, It's just another thing my dad has stolen from me, because he made it very clear when I was little that he was going to screw me up so bad that my adulthood was going to be a product of his conviction. But every day that I'm alive, I'm proving him wrong, which is a good thing, right? So now I'm 13. I finally get my period. Woo! It sucks. But then they stopped. So 3 months later, my period stopped. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I go 2 months without my period. So I got to go talk to my doctor. Doctor, I'm going to say her name loud and clear. Dr. McConnell. Dr. McConnell tells me, oh, it's normal for girls to skip their period because girls can be irregular. So I'm like, okay. So I go home and I take that as what it's worth. 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months go by. I go back to McConnell. And I'm like, McConnell, I still don't have my period. And once again, she says, it's normal for girls to skip their period. Another 2 months go by. This is 9 months. I have not had a period. This is not normal. So I go in for my 3rd visit, and she says, well, and she's all frustrated at this point because heavens forbid you go to a doctor with a medical issue. And she's like, give me a second. She goes into the next room and she gets whatever she wants, and she comes to my room, into the office that I'm in, and she literally, and I'm not joking, no exaggeration, she takes a big ass book, a medical encyclopedia, shoves it on the bed in front of me, opens it up, and points to the words polycystic ovarian syndrome. And she says, so I guess you have this. Do your research. And she leaves the room. No joke. So I walk up to the book and I start reading. So polycystic ovarian syndrome. My doctor's telling me that I have cysts on my ovaries that they're stopping ovulation, which are stopping my periods from coming. And I'm like, oh, great. So she comes in and she says, so did you read? I'm like, yeah. And she says, so I guess this means you're never going to have kids. That's something you tell to a 13-year-old. So she says, yeah, so you're never going to have kids. I'm going to put you on birth control, and we're going to see if we can get your periods to start again, because birth control is going to help. So she puts me on something. I start that. I am now in the car crying because the one thing Carl mentioned to me that I wasn't going to have kids, that just wasn't going to be. I've wanted children since I was 3 with my tutu, or my baby, my dolls, and I was going to be a mom, and I was going to be a mom of grace, a mom of forgiveness, a mom of everything that wasn't going on in my household at that time. Now, I don't mean my mother, because my mother has been a guardian angel through all this, and she has just been so strong, and the days that she feels that she was the anti-strong were the days that were most important for us. So I am now in a car with my mom, and I have a package of birth control in my hand, and at this point I'm like, all right, so I'm going to do everything to see maybe one day, if I pray really hard, it's going to work. And I'm going to have a kid one day. So I do the birth control thing, and I start gaining weight. At that time, I was 13, and I was probably 86 pounds, 76 pounds. Like a normal, healthy, I did sports. I loved football, didn't do soccer, and volleyball. Like anything but that wasn't soccer or hockey. I love sports. I love doing this. I love reading. I wanted to be everything. But they start me on birth control, and now they start me on a normal dose. My periods aren't starting. About a couple months go by, I go back and she says, okay, well, we're going to try another one. So she puts me on another. Now, I've been on 7 different contraceptives, 5 of which were pill form with like the sugar pills where you take a week off. They did me where I was not going off at all, and they were just going to not have me have a period. Then they did a patch, and that didn't work. So from the age of 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, for 4 years, Now I should add that without getting an ultrasound, without getting an x-ray, without getting any of this. She had me on 7 different contraceptives. In those 4 years, I gained 300 pounds. I, at the time, was vegetarian, very healthy eater. I'm not vegetarian anymore because I love me some cow. We got cows. So I was a healthy eater, active person. Within those 4 years, I got sicker and fatter, and sicker and fatter. And McConnell, as I kept going, said that I must be huffing Twinkies behind the bleachers at school. I must be overeating. I must be this woman who wakes up. And there was a point where she asked my mom to lock the fridge because Chanel's eating everything, which was a complete and utter lie because I was just so ill all the time. And by ill, I mean I was tired. I was in pain. I was having what they were calling contractions. And they thought, wow, Chanel, your PCOS, the polycystic ovarian syndrome, is really bad, and you might even have ovarian cancer. This shit's going down. And I'm sorry for my language, but stuff's going down. And I'm like, okay, this isn't good. So now I'm 17. All through high school, I am sick. I'm barely there. I had one report card said that I was, one of my report cards said that I was literally there only 80 days of the whole year. Stay here. So it was horrible, and I was getting fat, and everybody was teasing me. I was a fat chick all of a sudden, and I was unhealthy. It was bad. 17. My mom had through all this. My mom had started to date a man named James. He was a lovely man who had all the intentions of being a spiritual head for our family. But he turned out to be a liar, and he didn't tell my mother till a week after their wedding, that he was bipolar, off and on his meds, and a violent man who was still wanted for attempted murder because in one of his rages, he tried to hit 3 people with his car. So that was James. So James had it convinced. He had himself and his therapist convinced that I was trying to break up his marriage. So at the ripe age of 17, weighing 290 pounds, kicks me out of my house. I get an apartment, a bachelor apartment in housing. I get on welfare because what else am I going to do? I'm in high school. Now I'm the scum of the earth, by the way. Now, oh boy, it's getting bad. Whoops, low battery. I am plugged in. What are you talking about? Anyways, so long story getting even longer. I'm now living on my own. And just wait, I need to plug in. Mozart, what is going on? Anyways, so I get told that all this is happening. So now I'm moved out. I'm 17. I am in the shower, right? And I'm washing myself, and I'm like, wait a minute. I literally feel a lump in my breast. What is going on? I'm 17. This is so wrong. I go to McConnell, and I sit in her office, and she says, yeah, so what? My nurse says you have a lump in your breast? You know that's impossible, right? You're 17. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's there. So can you look at it? And she says, no, it's probably just a cyst. You have cysts anyways. So, okay. I wait 3 weeks, and I go back in, and I'm like, yeah, so this lump is getting bigger. And she's like, oh my God, Chanel, it's just a cyst. Calm down. And I'm like, okay, well, can you just touch it? Just to humor me. I said, can you humor me and touch my breast and see and tell me how retarded I am? She looks at it and her face drops. And she's like, well, okay, so yeah, there is a lump here. And like I said, it's probably a cyst and it will get smaller. But I'm going to give you an x-ray. I'm like, well, thank you. That's so graceful. Oh, that's so nice of you, as a doctor, to give your patient an x-ray? And like, come on, thank you. So we do the x-ray. And the x-ray lady looks at me and she's like, honey, your doctor just called and issued a mammogram. I'm like, a mammogram? Whoa! She must be feeling super gracious today. Not gracious, generous. Jeez, wow. At this point, I'm like, sweet, I am getting a mammogram. She's taking me seriously. No, she was just trying to cover her ass. Anyways, they do the mammogram. Haha, guess what? It is an cyst. It's a massive, massive tumor. So, at that point, I'm diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, they don't know if it's malignant. They don't know, but they are saying it's malignant because of the fact that it had grown from the size of a pea to the size of, they said it was like a tennis ball. The size of a tennis ball in 4 weeks. So this is a fast-growing tumor. So now, let's chalk this up. I'm 17 years old, living on my own, sick as a dog from the hormone treatments that she's putting me on for my polycystic ovarian syndrome, which I'll talk to you about. And now I have a massive tumor in my left breast that I need to go get a lumpectomy for. I go see the breast doctor, and he feels me, and he says, and he looks at my x-ray, and he says, yeah, so this is kind of a big tumor, and we're not gonna do a lumpectomy because we need to get this out now. So I had about a month to sit and digest the fact that this is happening. I'm on my own. I have my cat, my Bayou, my Bagheera, and I'm sick, and I'm in school, and I have a tumor. Great. So we do that. I do the surgery. It sucked because I'm allergic to a lot of things. I have oral allergy syndrome, which means that anything that comes or is either branched from, branched, pun intended, pun not intended, anything that comes from a tree, a bush, or a weed, like, for instance, cantaloupe and watermelon, is literally grown from a weed, but we just happen to eat it because it's amazingly good tasting, because God is great. Yeah, so we take the tumor out. It's not malignant. Thank Jehovah. Because at that point, I'm like, I can't die. I know this sounds bad, but I can't die yet. I have things to do. I have people to love. I have movies to see. I have preaching to do. There's just so much time that my childhood I was in a closet. Carl he loved sticking me and my brother in closets for hours on end while my mom was working. I had a closeted youth, and I didn't want to spend my adolescence in a casket. I didn't. It wasn't an option. So we take out the tumor. Everything's fine. Well, the surgery goes pretty rough, and I'm in the hospital for a bit because the anesthetics had aspartame in it, sucralose, and like the filler. So that got me really sick, and I was puking, and I couldn't barely walk, and I was paralyzed, and all the loveliness. Anyways, so that was that. Now they tell me that now I'm going to school, and I'm back at school, and I'm tired, and I'm sick, and I'm just exhausted, and I get to a point where I can't do school anymore. I can't. Even though I lived literally across the street from my school, my high school, I was too sick, and my teachers were telling me, Chanel, you need to go home. You just have too much going on. You're having contractions in class. Your breast is stapled 6 times. You need to take care of you. And that was one of the biggest things I've ever had to do, because dropping out of school, because I was supposed to be in students' council. I was supposed to be leader of like bullying classes. I had such high hopes for high school, and I was going to be frontline. I was going to help, and I was going to be awesome, and it just ended up being the opposite. I was sick and throwing up and passing out in the hallways, and it just wasn't fun. It wasn't good. I had amazing friends, all guys, up until grade 12 when I met Haley, which we'll go into a whole other vlog for you, Hales. I love you. So yeah, so I drop out of school. My principal tells me that I'm a good for nothing, worth for absolutely nothing, and that my decision was the worst decision I could ever make, and that I was supposed to choose school first, not my health, and disregards me completely as a human being. Which I might add, she was a smoker and a couple years ago died of lung cancer. I'm not saying that she deserved it because she had a family and grandkids that miss her great. But that's an idea of how, that's an example of don't judge. Please don't judge. Just don't. It's so easy. We do it every day. I'm a judger. I do it. We do it. Just don't do it out loud because you have no idea what that's going to do to the person who's struggling just to be alive like I was. So now 18 years old, I am friends with all my guy friends, like I mentioned. Mozart, come here, buddy. 18 years old. I'm still, I've now been living alone for a year. They take the tumor out. Everything's fine. I'm healed. I have a kick-ass scar on my boob, which I can't show anyone because it's on my boob. Injustice, I tell you. And, so yeah, that happens. And I'm going to be right back because I'm going to see if I can plug this in there. Ta-da! So yeah, so I'm 18 years old. I have a really bad contraction and I start hemorrhaging at school. So I run home and I'm on the toilet and I'm bleeding and I'm bleeding and I'm bleeding and it's not stopping. So they book the McConnell finally ups and decides to say, well, I'll send you to a gynecologist, I guess. This is 5 years, ladies and gentlemen, after I have been diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, possibly endometriosis, and who knows, maybe ovarian cancer. Anyways, so that's that. So she sends me to Dr. Rebel. Oh, Dr. Rebel. She tells me that it is all in my head, my pain, that polycystic ovarian syndrome isn't painful, doesn't cause people to gain weight, that I should have mentioned this before, but I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh, there goes half my subscribers. I'm just kidding. Yes, so I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So she told me that, oh, so you're living a life as a Jehovah's Witness cult, massive cult, who is making you stop living your life. You have so many rules, and you can't go out and have sex. She says, how are you supposed to live your life if you can't go out and have sex and have drugs and do these things? How dare you and your faith tell you to live a healthy life? And you yourself are so depressed by living the life of a Jehovah's Witness that you are binge eating and taking, might I add, diarrhea stuff, laxatives in order to try to lose weight. She very well knew that I had severe IBS. Mozart, come here. Every time he hears something, he's gonna go and get them. Wait, Mozart, say hi to the people. No, he's shy. There's your people. Hi, people. Anyways, yeah, so I am told that, I lost my train of thought. Oh no. Oh, you're so distracted. Anyways, so at this point, I am hemorrhaging. And I go in to Dr. Rebel. Oh, right, Dr. Rebel. And she tells me all these horrible things. So I go home and I'm crying and I'm depressed. And at this point, I didn't lose faith. I've never, ever lost faith. Because my life as a witness has not at all affected my health. It didn't even make sense. Her logic was flawed. Anyway, so I ask for a second opinion, and I get Dr. Power, Dr. Stephen Power in London, Victoria Hospital. And if you know him, you know that his heart is the size of Jupiter, and he just loves unconditionally. And he tried again, and he tried me on. He said, well, you've been on birth control for a long time, and I understand that this weight gain was not your choice, and it was forced upon you, and it's going to be hard for you to lose it. I think the heaviest I've ever been was 310. All from my medications and from surgery and from just the crap that they were pumping into me. So I live every day judged as if I'm a Big Mac smuggler, Big Mac smuggler, or a Twinkie, a Twinkie puffer or snuffer, or whatever they've told me to do, or told me what I was. And that's that. So I should have done a draw my life because I'm cool like that, but no. This is what I'm going to do. And it's 30 minutes already, so I'm sorry. But this is what you want to know. So Dr. Power says, I'm going to try you on a needle. And it's a birth control needle, and we're going to give you periods because you deserve a period. And this is when he drops the bomb on me. Ready, ladies and gentlemen? You can have children. I look at him with tears in my eyes. I'm like, no, Dr. Power. I've been told for the past 5 years that I'm a mother that'll never have kids. And he says, well, that's absolutely wrong because I have hundreds of women come in here every day with worse symptoms than you who have had many children. It's just a little harder to get pregnant. And he's like, that's what I'm here for, and that's what I help women do. And I hugged him, and I told him that he was my favoriteest person in the whole world. So I go for my first injection. Woohoo! We're all excited. This is good. We got a doctor that loves me. And at this point, I was dating Nathan, my ex-husband. We were dating, and he was super supportive. And he's like, well, let's go. So we go, and I get my appointment to go get the needle. Now, I have the needle on me. I just have to bring it to my doctor to get it done. Now, at this point, I had switched doctors to Dr. Rahimi in Hagersville because I couldn't do McConnell anymore. After I was told that I was actually able to have children, I was too betrayed. So I literally moved in with my mother, who lived in Cayuga, so that I would be eligible to have a new doctor. If that's illegal, I'm sorry, but at this point, it was what I needed to do. So I talked to Dr. Rahimi, and his nurse gives me the needle, and she asks me, she says, and she's a lovely lady, and she's like, so how are you guys for needles? And I said, well, me and my grandmother are stuck with the fact that, we are fainters. Now, I'm not afraid of needles. I don't care. It's just my body decides that, nope, we don't do needles. So I told her I'm a fainter, and she says, okay, well, we'll just take it easy. We'll get you relaxed, and we'll do this. It's just a needle. I do this every day. They're about to figure out how Chanel works. So they give me the needle, and I feel fine. I didn't even faint. I'm like, wait a minute. This is kind of awesome. So she says, so Chanel, how are you feeling? And her head goes like this. And I look at her, and I'm like, I feel fine. And I had enough time to look down at my arms to see what I swear. I thought I was tripping out, man. I thought I was tripping balls. My skin had turned white, and I had bumps about this big, purple. And then I get tunnel vision, and I'm out. Next, I don't know how much time had gone by. I wake up on the floor with about a crew of people on top of me. There's an alarm going off. And I hear a doctor say, I hear beeping, and there's people touching me, and I'm on the floor, and I'm covered in vomit, which I'm assuming, and I'm hoping it's my own. And I hear a nurse tell me, hang in there, Chanel. She's awake. Hang in there, Chanel. Well, first of all, someone said, she's awake, she's awake. And I'm like, who's awake? Yeah, so now I'm on a stretcher, and I'm going by my mother, and I'm going by Nathan in the waiting room. And now I'm in ER, and they tell me that I had went into cardiac arrest, that my heart had stopped, and that I had flatlined, and that I was done. And the nurse told me that there must be a man upstairs that really wanted you to be here because I woke up. And my heart started again they had paddles ready. Apparently they had the emergency paddles, because literally I wasn't even in a doctor's office. I was in like the doctor's, his like room where he keeps his books and his like placards and all that stuff. I wasn't even, so they didn't have anything in that room to take care of me, and here I'm on the floor flatlining. So now I'm in the ER in the tiny hick town of Hagersville Hospital, and they lose me. I'm not kidding you. They lose me. So now Nathan is sitting next to me holding my hand, and he's like, everything's going to be fine. And then he looks at me, he's like, Chanel? Now I'm in the hallway, not admitted anywhere. I'm in the hallway. They had left me in the hallway in the emergency. I had just flatlined. And I go white and purple again. And I'm out again. And I had flatlined twice. Nathan, from what he told me, runs to the nurse corral and says, my girlfriend she's gone. You guys got to come. She's had another heart attack. And they're like, oh, no, we don't have any heart patients right now. And he's like, well, no, you don't, because she's not a heart patient, but she's about to be, and she's about to be dead if you don't find her. So they go and they grab me, and they finally put me into a room, hook me up to heart stuff, and once again, at this point, I had come back. And they connect me to all the heart beeper doos and a thing in my nose and all that jazz. Now, this hospital is not prepared for this. This hospital is prepared for flus, and broken arms is like the limit of what they're prepared for. And this doctor comes in and he says, so is this my trachea? I look at him and I'm like, how could he possibly know that I'm a Star Trek fan? And he says, well, Chanel, when you were on the floor unconscious, you had told one of my nurses to alert medical. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'm dying, and I'm making sure to quote Star Trek. So they alerted medical, all right. So yeah, so that's my story about how I flatlined. And that was about it. I had had enough of birth control. I'm like, you know what? This is literally killing me. I can't do this anymore. I'm 200 pounds heavier, which has made chances of diabetes. My sugar was going up and down. I don't have diabetes, but it was horrid. It was horrid, guys. Absolutely horrid. And so I go home and I tell Dr. Power I can't do this anymore. So he says, well, Chanel, before I let you walk out of my office, I want to schedule an operation. I want to send you to Dr. White, Dr. Andrea White, and she's a fertility and obstetrics surgeon, and I want her to go just see the damage that has been done in your ovaries, and go see your uterus and your bladder, and let's just see what has been done, what McConnell has did to you. Let's go see what she has done, and let's see if we can fix it, and maybe do like a sweep, we can clear you out. We have the technology. We have it. So I say, okay. I have my pre-op, and they says, well, Chanel, these are your risks. You're a woman, an overweight, obese. Now, at this point, I'm morbidly obese at 300 pounds. I'm morbidly obese. I've had 2 heart attacks. It's not a heart attack. I flatlined twice. And I was allergic to anesthetics. So they said, Chanel, there's about a 5% window where you'll come out of this okay. 5% window. That means I can't do math. 95? Oh wait, no, that's wrong. 10. Right, because I had an 80% chance of dying or there being a major complication. And I'm like, oh good. Party over here. So I tell Nathan this, and Nathan and me decide that we're gonna go for a walk. And I have 2 months until the surgery. And I'm like, well, Nathan, we should break up. I don't want you to have to live with having to, have a girlfriend that dies on you. That's not a good thing. Like, that's not the kind of grieving I want you to do. I want you to grieve our relationship. I don't want you to grieve my life. And he says, no. He says, I don't want to break up with you. I don't. I love you. So he says, he's like, how about we get married? And I'm like, what? And he says, let's get married. You want to get married? And I'm like, oh boy, we could do this. I could get married in 2 months. I didn't want to die a virgin. I know that sounds horrible, but I didn't want to miss out on such a massive part, and I did love him. So I'm like, let's do this. And I tell my mom, and I tell my brother, and everyone's like, at this point, they're just terrified that I'm dying. And I've put them through so much already that they're like, yes, we're doing this. We're going to get a kick-ass wedding. Now, at this point, I can't work. I'm so sick. My mom is stuck with this asshole of a husband who, oh my, I'm not even gonna go there. And we didn't have the money to have a big ass fancy wedding, and Nathan refused to tell his parents because heavens forbid he be in love. Anyways, so we plan a cute little wedding. My dress was $40. I got it at Edition now. It was a white summer dress that I got, and kind of, I can post pictures if you want. I don't know. It's not important. It's the wedding is mute now because of the divorce. But anyway, so we get in June 31st. We get married. Haley was depressed the whole day. Nathan, right before the vows, Nathan had hid himself in the bathroom of the courthouse, and I had to go and try to coax him out. That should have been sign number 1. Anyways, then we do pictures, and we have a dinner at Serafina's, which is like a little bistro in Simcoe, and they had like an upstairs for like special events, and it was gorgeous. And my mom and brother surprised me because we didn't have a dance or anything, right? And like every little girl, I had dreamed of dancing my first dance when I got married. So she got actually the restaurant people to go over the PA and say, so yeah, there's a wedding dinner here, and they're going to dance their first dance. So they had cleared a little spot for us to dance to Phil Collins' Can You Feel the Love Tonight, because I'm a huge Disney fan. And it was beautiful, and I cried, and it was just a perfect moment. And I look up at Nathan, and he has the biggest frown on his face. And oh my God! Mozart! Yeah, that's going to go on for a bit. Mozart, come here! Daddy, look! Oh, who's your good boy? Yo, wow, the hair is sticking up on the back of your neck. Anyways, yeah, so, no, it's okay. The cats are fine. Oh, no, I've lost. Every time you bark, I lose where I am. Anyway, so now, yeah, it got bad. Let's just say that. I'm going to drop it at that, because I promised I wouldn't go too much into detail. So I dance my dance, we go home, I lose my virginity to know too much information. It hurt like hell, and it just kept hurting, and it hurt. Sex hurt me a lot, and we didn't know why. And it wasn't like we were doing wacky positions or like nothing. It just was like about as G-rated as you can get marital sex. So I go to my doctor, and my psychiatrist at that point, said that, oh wait, I'm skipping the surgery. Hold on, wait a minute. So I get the surgery. I go in, and they do the surgery, and I'm going to mention to you what post-operative awareness is. Now, this happens in about 300 cases a year, I think, in Canada. I mean, Canada, not Ontario, Canada. And it's where your brain kind of like denies the anesthetics. Hey, Mozart, look! Denies the anesthetics. And so yeah, I was paralyzed, but completely awake throughout the entire procedure. And the procedure was laparoscopic. It was through my belly button, and they went into my uterus, into my ovaries, into my bladder, and my bowels. And I was completely awake. My proof, therefore, for this was that I was intubated, and they gave me, I counted, it was 32 seconds. 32 seconds it took them to give me a new puff of air, because they like to keep your heart rate down and all this stuff. And you're not supposed to be conscious. You're not. So yeah, so that sucked. So I wake up. And by wake up, I mean the point where I was able to scream. I screamed in my head the whole time. I'm awake, and I thought that maybe if I screamed loud enough in my head, a foot would twitch, and they'd be like, "Oh my goodness, that's impossible. She must be awake." It didn't happen. So as soon as I could get feeling back, I project myself out of bed, and I say, I've been awake the whole time. I should add, I've been awake the whole time, because I've been intubated, and intubation sucks for me because I have another disorder where my organs stopped growing. I have a tiny uterus I have a tiny lungs, tiny heart, tiny everything. Everything's tiny. It just stopped growing because I was malnourished. I just wasn't healthy. Not by my hand. It was by doctors and by Carl. So they tell me, no, that's impossible. So I look at the nurse and I said, get me Dr. White. Dr. White comes in. She goes, oh, Shell, they're telling me that you were awake. Come on, honey. I said, so, when is your son's soccer practice? Oh, wait, I know, Wednesdays at 6. Her eyes open. She knows that she knew at that point that was what she was talking about throughout the surgery. She was talking to her nurses about the fact that she had to go do her son's soccer practice. And she's like, at that point, she becomes all liberal again. And she says, well, Chanel, you have experienced post-operative awareness. This is and she tells me everything that just had happened. And she apologizes, and she says that there's nothing they can do. There's nothing. So she gives me Oxycontin for the pain and sends me home. I have my first nervous breakdown. I go home, and I have a schizophrenic-like episode. The room was coming down on me. There was someone doing construction outside, and that chainsaw was literally driving through my head. My hallucinations were making whatever sound that was, like, who knows, like 2 blocks away. It was going through my brain. Then my friend's house where I was doing post-op, where I was going to go for post-op, they had a bird named Toby, and Toby was chattering, and it was coming out my head. It was literally poking my eyes out, and I'm screaming. So my mom takes me to the hospital. They hospitalized me. They put me in a control room, and they let me do my freak out. And ever since then, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, because your brain just doesn't go through that kind of... That's a horror movie. That's like an alien abduction. You can't move, but they're slicing through you and going through your ovaries. Terrifying. So at that point, I get post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, which I already had since Carl. And to make matters worse, the way my brain had, for lack of oxygen and all that lovely stuff, the way my brain decided to deal with this was with schizophrenic-like episodes. So for the months and year after that, I was having freakouts, hallucinations. I could hear the beeping of the nurses. The smell of, like, hand sanitizer, or like alcohol. The smell of that brought on an episode, because there's just a strong smell. The smell of blood. The smell of, like, there's this yellow stuff that they use to clean your body off. Iodine, I think, or something. It's a anesthetic. No, it's a cleaner. The smell of that is forever burnt into my brain, because that's all I could smell throughout the whole surgery was my own insides and that iodide yellow yuck. So yeah, so now I have, now let's tell you the results, ladies and gentlemen. My doctor comes in, and after she had told me about the post-op, now we're back in the hospital, sorry I skipped that. She shows me a picture. And this picture is in a high definition 1080p picture of my uterus. Clear of polycystic ovarian syndrome, clear of endometriosis, with 0 scarring or proof thereof that I ever had any problems. So that means that I had been misdiagnosed and mistreated and prescribed. All those things was wrong. And I cried and cried, because from my treatments and the hormone treatments, I had gained 200 pounds, had gone through all of that, connected with being obese, morbidly obese. And now I've had the experience of the surgery that will be with me for the day I die. And I didn't even have these disorders. They were non-existent. So yeah, that was the worst day of my life. Finding out that everything that I had gone through was for nothing. And then it just kept getting worse. I had to go see a psychiatrist at this point. There he goes. I had to go see a psychiatrist. Mozart! A psychiatrist at this point because because of the post-traumatic, and they put me on all this medication to stop the freakouts and the hallucinations. And I'm telling them about how sex with Nathan hurt, and how it hurt really bad, and everything just kind of hurt. And I was tired, and he says, and they thought it was depression. But then they did a test, and it turned out that I had fibromyalgia. And fibro attacks so many different things, and could have been why my periods were irregular, because when you have inflamed muscles and inflamed everything, it makes sense that your period just would stop. So finally, I get the proper diagnosis at the age of 18. Are you going to stay? Be a good boy? Be a good boy. No! Yeah, so now I'm at 51 minutes. I'm so sorry. No one's going to watch this. I should have did this in 2 parts. Anyways, if you watch it, thank you. If you don't, then pull your pants down and turn around and sing the Macarena. See, the joke is that if they're not watching it, they're not going to know how to do it. Anyways, so, yeah. So, misdiagnosis, all that crap. It hurts. Everything hurts. I have fibro. I'm out of school. Events happen which lead to my divorce or separation. And now I am where I am. I'm now 21, so 18, 19, 20. No, wait, 19, 20. I try to get healthy, and I try to deal with my fibro. And I had gotten to a point where I was okay until last year in June. I go to the superstore, the grocery store in Simcoe, and bend down with one of those beepers to like beep something that was under my cart, and I broke my back. As I went down, it clicked, and I had 3 herniated discs, 2 herniated discs, and one that had completely just out of whack. So I was in a wheelchair for 8 months because they told me that my S1 nerve, which connects like your bladder and on your legs, had kinked with the herniated disc. It went with it, and now there was a ball of like a herniation or a ball of fluid sitting on that S1 nerve. And if I made the stupid mistake of clicking it all the way or just like a millimeter shorter, I would have been paralyzed from the legs down. So yeah, that's what I need to hear. After everything that has happened, I need to hear that if I move wrong, I'm not going to have my legs. Yeah, so we got a wheelchair from the Who Did It Club because I couldn't afford one. And my husband pushes me around Simcoe for a little bit until we got separated, and then we got Shadowfax, the Lord of all horses, which is a utility scooter with like one of those grandma beep beep with the basket in front. Oh, I was styling, no joke. I named her Shadowfax because she was white and she was beautiful, and she was the Lord of all horses. And I drove that around for a bit until I went to a doctor who told me that we were just going to have to wait until I got stronger and built my momentum, and now I'm walking. And my mom's current partner, boyfriend, lovely fella, named Greg, he did, I think, 2 fibro massages, which really did help. I really should have made more appointments with him, but I just didn't. He's a busy guy, you know, he's got like patients anyways. So I got a yoga ball, and that helped me too, just to build resistance. And I started walking, and in spite of everybody telling me that I should be losing all this weight now because there's no reason why I gained it. Bullcrap. I gained it because of the medications they were on. And that's what my dietitian in London told me. Bless her soul. I can't remember her name. Joy! Her name was Joy! Oh, I just remembered. Joy. You got to experience that with me. Joy told me that, you know what, now you're going to lose it one day because you're going to have the health and the ability to, and you're not going to be on Biggest Loser like they told me I'd have to go on. Nope. You're just gonna get through this, and you're gonna be the healthy weight again one day. And I'd love to meet up with her again and say, and show her where I am now, because honestly, in the past, I'll say 4 months, and that's a small amount of time, or let's say 6 months, I've grown up so much. And that's where I am today, and that's when now that I'm healthy and I've lost, I think, it may not seem like a lot, but I've lost like 30 pounds, so now I'm like I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm stronger now, and I can go on walks with Mozart and Mozzie, the other dog, and with the kids, and I love it. And I've been having my periods, ta-da, regularly, like to the point where I could pinpoint a day of ovulation, and that was given to me by Jehovah, because there's no my relationship with him has not gotten any different. It has been just as strong as the day that I was born. And he's gotten to me literally. You just heard my story. There's my story, and you don't know. That's like the mild version. Like, I could have gone into details of scars and burns and things that you just don't need to know, because we want to be positive. But this has happened to me. This has been my life. I'm 21 years old, and honestly, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm 80. Because I've gone through breast cancer. I've gone through things that people just haven't, and abuse, and but now I'm doing friendship respite. I don't know. The 3 kids that are in this house, they all have their little, like, ADHD. Like, they have the things that I don't like to call them disorders or mental problems. Yeah, we all have our things, and we're just a family of wackadoodles, and we take our good days with our bad days, and that's that. We literally live our days day by day with God and by prayer and Holy Spirit. And you can laugh at me because God ain't real. Are you kidding me? Oh, how could God be real? Anyways, believe what you want to believe. I have Buddhist friends. I have pagan. Well, she's not pagan anymore. Anyways, I have friends of all kinds of shapes, colors, sizes, religious faiths. Narnia. I love. That's my policy. It's hard to sometimes because you're surrounded by people who aren't lovable. But if you force yourself to just love, it gets easier to be not loved. It just gets easier. Now, before Shannon gets home and the kids come home because they're at their mom's today, and yeah, I'm going to stop it because now it's almost an hour long. I am so sorry, but literally I just concentrated 21 years in an hour, which is really a big feat for me because I'm a talker. But I hope you watch this, and I hope, I don't know, if I get anything across, it's that, A, don't judge a person, because I walked around Simcoe judged for the past 7 years of my life. And no one knows. People in my congregation don't know. They never asked. Friends, students, peers, teachers. Although I have a handful of people who have just been here for me since day one, there have been people that just didn't make my journey any easier by their judgments and their concern, but their misguided concern. And just remember that everybody's fighting something. I know that's so cliched, and I love cliches because, cliches are cliches because we say them a lot because it's what is what. I hated when my teacher said not to use cliches because it's like telling you not to breathe. We breathe all the time, so let's not breathe anymore because it's so cliche. No, I love cliches. Yeah, so my life is a massive cliche, and yeah, so just love, don't judge. And if you see someone that's just having a bad day, or if you see someone that looks like they're having the world's greatest day, give them a hug. Because you know what? Maybe they were just beaten. Or maybe they just found out that they have breast cancer. Or maybe they just found out that their mother died. Or maybe the list goes on and on. But I'm going to stop the vlog now because vlog, video, vlog. And I'm going to leave it there. So, fair fault and all. Bye.